Well, hello and welcome to Coffee Conversation and Book Talks with Sandy. I am Sandy Sanders. I am your host and creator of the Book Talks with Sandy platform, where we host authors, anthology book projects, and most of all, I say that it is for you. Why do I say that? Because you just might be looking for a good book to read. Well, I am super excited to be on with you live on a Saturday afternoon. And I want to thank each and every one of you for continuing to support the Coffee Conversation and Book Talks with Sandy platform. What I want you to do as you are here, whether you're listening to us live or you're maybe listening to the replay, go ahead and tag a couple of people, tag at least 5 people that you know that would enjoy a great conversation between 2 people about an amazing book. That's what we do. We host author tours, and tonight or this afternoon, on this amazing Saturday afternoon, first of all, I want to ask, how y'all doing? How are you doing? Hope you're having a great Saturday. This afternoon, we are hosting the tour. This is a solo book project tour for my guest that is on tonight. And we are broadcasting also. She is in the UK. And so we want to say good evening to all of you that are tuning in from wherever you are, in whatever country that you're in. But we want to welcome back our guest tonight or this afternoon or this morning, whatever time zone that you are in, is my dear friend, Adeyinka Kilani. And I'm going to go ahead and bring her on so we can say hello. And here we are again.
Good evening.
Good evening. And how are you? How you doing?
Very well. Good, thank you.
Good. Well, we are excited to have you back. You're on a tour here.
I know.
And
I'm excited too.
listen, all of the reviews, we got some amazing comments, and from our last conversation when we had you on a few nights ago. And listen, everybody's excited about this book. We're on edge.
I know.
And that's what our anticipation has been all about. It is about this solo book project. So before we bring you on into doing a conversation, before we get started, I want to let our audience know that we are powered by the CTR Media Network. And CTR Media Network is a platform for podcasters, and we are heard in over 350 million viewers worldwide and 100 countries globally. We also have amazing sponsors. I want to acknowledge our current sponsor that we have. We have a new sponsor. She's been with us before, and she sponsored our morning broadcast that I have, where I do a devotional, Yinka. And so it is none other than, she is also a coach of mine. Her name is Nadia Francois. Nadia is the founder of WYSP, which is What's Your Superpower? And she has a summit coming up, and we will be sharing more about the summit that will be taking place. It is a hybrid, so there will be a day of in-person as well as virtual. So we want to acknowledge our sponsor, Nadia Francois, and the founder. She is the founder of What's Your Superpower? The summit is What's Your Superpower Virtual Summit. And we have Liberations Publishing LLC, which is here in Mississippi. And it is a publishing house. We're publishing with the author in mind. And the CEO is none other than Nicole Magnum. So we'll be sharing more as well. And we've added a new sponsor, which you all have seen that I've interviewed this amazing lady and her authors. Well, she has a summit coming up in March during the Women's History Month, Yinka, and it is Kenyatta Powers Rucker. She is known as Lady in Tech. And so Ladies in Tech book launch and network. It is going to be a national launch and network summit, which is going to be on March 23rd. So I'll be sharing more about that. So it's a Saturday afternoon. What time is it, Yinka, in the UK?
It's about 9.
It's
9
about 9.
Yes.
So how's your day been?
Oh, my day has been so busy.
What you been up to?
Because my son is coming home for the half term on Monday. So I
Okay.
was trying to get everything sorted out. I don't want to have any major cooking when he's around. So I did a lot of cooking. I'm going to freeze them for, so that he has my full attention.
Yes. So your you're doing what they call, I guess, meal prepping.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So what foods do he like?
Oh, I made chicken, I made fish, and
Mhm.
I might do beef tomorrow. But he's coming home on Monday.
And you freeze and so you put it in the
Yes.
freezer so it's easy accessible and you just put it in the
Yes.
microwave or
I put
put it
them
in.
in, little portions that we can just bring out and use as
Yeah.
a meal. So
Yeah. So like you said, is that you do all of this in advance. And we're going to
yes,
talk about that because I think you are opening up a world to us. You're bringing us into your world of and he's now how old? Tell me one more time.
16.
He's
He's
16
16.
years old. I already had him 21. But he is 16. And oh my goodness, I remember when you first shared your story about your amazing son. So listen, we're going to do our intro one more time, and then we're going to dive in to our conversation. As we've said, is that we have the amazing Yinka Kalani out of all the way in the city in the UK. Where are you? What's your city?
It's called Salisbury. It's in the southwest England.
Yes. Wow. Wow. I know it's probably so beautiful. I've seen pictures of
It is.
you.
It's actually a very beautiful place. I mean, I love it here.
That's why you're giving us an excuse to make that global trip. I'm coming overseas for sure. Well, listen, guys, stay with us. We'll be right back. I'll be sharing with you, and we'll hear from powered by CTR Media Network with the phenomenal, yes, Dr. Tina J. Ramsey.
CTR Media Network is now accepting new podcasters to join our growing network that's reaching 350 million global listeners. Have you heard? CTR Media Network offers podcast production, podcast training, distribution, and product placement. Book us for your next event or schedule an interview with CTR Media Network podcasters today. To learn more, go to ctrmedianetwork.com.
Yes, CTR Media Network. And yes, go to www.ctrmedianetwork.com. Well, those of you that are tuning in, as I mentioned, that my guest is on a book tour, and we're kicking off our second interview. This is part 2. And I am with Yinka Kilani, and she is a 10-time best-selling author, international best-selling, Amazon best-selling author. And she's introducing her new solo project, her solo book project called When Your Promises Comes with a But. When Your Promise Comes with a But.
Yes.
And oh my goodness, when your promise comes with a but. I want to share just a little bit. This lady is phenomenal. Listen, but she is so humble. God has just what can I say? Yes, she is known as a trailblazer, and she's an intercessor, a philanthropist, dedicated to fostering sustainable change for future generations. As an Amazon international bestseller, she's an author. Not only that, she's a speaker and a geospatial specialist. Could you pronounce that for me?
Geospatial analyst.
Geospatialist, a special analyst. Okay. You empower compassionate trailblazers seeking to make positive impact with a bachelor's degree in geography and planning as a master's and a master's in geography information. Yinka provides secure resolution for environmental infrastructures through geospatial. Am I saying it
Yes,
right?
geospatial.
Special. Okay, geospatial. That's it. Data. Her
Yes.
compassion, nature, and ability to create a welcoming environment, having made her a respected speaker, known for her profound sensibility. So, as we talk about God's gracing you, how to have that relationship, you maintain the relatability in your professional life, in your impersonal relationships, and also you're an asset to your local community and valued within your family and friendship. And truly, we know because you, the other night, it was after midnight and they were on just cheering you on for sure.
Okay.
Come on and tell us. I'd like for us to start with you are a writer, you're a speaker. Open us up to your world of writing and how all of this came about.
Yes, thanks for having me, Sandy. So I started writing during the COVID lockdown, and but I knew God wanted me to write long before then, but I kept on putting it off. I kept telling God, when I retire, when I retire, when I retire. But when COVID happened, honestly speaking, it was like scales fell off my face. Suddenly I realized tomorrow wasn't guaranteed. So there was no reason why we should wait or delay what God wants us to do. So when I just the minute they told me that, okay, one of my MS nurse actually called me and she told me, oh, you can't, I hope you've heard about COVID and it's making it round, and it seems to be taking people that have a pre-existing condition. So she was advising me I should be extra careful. I should, not go out if I can avoid it. And so when I got off the call with her, suddenly I was like, look, I mean, that means, I could literally be dead tomorrow, and I just thought to myself, if I actually die now, honestly speaking, I knew that so many things that the Lord had put in my heart to write about, I wouldn't have written about it. And then everything was just going to die with me. And I suddenly got scared. I was like, okay, you know what, Yinka, you cannot put this off anymore. So I repented of delaying. I told God I was really sorry, and I decided, okay, you know what, I'm really going to start writing now. Anything you want me to talk about, I'm ready now. And that was how Forged by Fire, Build God Tough came about. So that was my very first attempt at writing. But when I finished that, I really enjoyed it, and I found it quite therapeutic. I found, when I write and I share my testimony, it really gave me joy. I thought to myself, you know what, Yinka, this is really why God wants you to write. And then one other thing that happened to me was, the minute I did Forged by Fire, Made God Tough, I got a text message somebody sent to me and said, look, Yinka, that this person also has MS. And he told me, he said, look, that I haven't been able to pray since my diagnosis. And I've literally been I've been struggling with my faith. I've been struggling with believing that God exists, with me being, diagnosed with this condition. But after I read your chapter, I rededicated my life back to God. And when I heard that, I suddenly realized, okay, this was why God wanted me to write, because He wanted me to encourage people that my testimony actually wasn't mine. It was meant to actually be told and allow people to actually trust God even in their difficult seasons. And so the minute I heard that, I literally told God, okay, I'm ready now. Anything you want me to talk about, I'll talk about it. So after I did Forged by Fire, I did A Joyful Heart. And that was that I talked about my journey, my having to accept my son's disability. Then I wrote in More Precious Than Gems, She Knows Her Worth. And that I talked about the childhood trauma that I overcame. And then I did finally free two, and I did self-love journal, and I did not winner by knockout. That was the name of the last one I did. But now the one that I'm working on now is Abba's Daughters, and that is so precious to me, So that, that's coming out on the 8th of March. I'm very excited about that. And then my solo project that has been, in the background for so long, I finally picked it up this year,
Yeah.
and coming out on the 22nd of March.
And that is amazing. You mentioned quite a few books that I've interviewed you before, and
Yes.
what a privilege, what an honor. And each book that you have participated in, each anthology, the visionaries brought out the Forged by Fire, that book. We want to give great big shout out and kudos to the phenomenal, yes, Kitra Keys, who
Yes.
is the visionary author, minister of God, for putting out such an amazing, amazing book project. And you participated. I had the privilege of interviewing you, as
Yes.
well as some other visionaries that you have partnered with, because that's what it is. Being participating in a visionary project is a little bit different from having your own solo project. And you mentioned that on our last conversation that this has been about 4 or 5 years in
Yes.
you, and
Yes.
then within that time, you were writing in in other book projects.
Yes.
And one of the things that you shared with our audience is that, hey, I kind of like this after
I really do.
Forged, after Forged by Fire.
Yes.
um that is so amazing, and I'm just so thankful. Again, you're definitely a writer, and we love the flow of your story. I love the testimony. And so someone reached out to you, and they had expressed some challenges after their diagnosis. And so hearing your story and you sharing your testimony, how does that make you feel, that others actually took time to read your story and it
You
reached
know,
one person
you
or
know, it's an amazing privilege, honestly. Every time I put pen to paper, I tell God, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to tell the story exactly how it happened, so that people can actually relate with it. Because one of the things I really want to do is allow people to see that, look, life, God did not promise us an easy life.
Yes.
But he promised us that he was never going to leave us, he will never forsake us. So even when we go through the fire, he's in it with us.
Hmm.
And that's what I really want to put across, that, you know what, even it might look like, the end has come, but it hasn't.
Yeah.
You're really going to walk out of that fire, and you're going to walk out refined. You're going
Hmm.
to walk out shining as gold, because that's what happened to me. And I
Yeah.
keep telling people, I said, look, if I can actually come out of this,
Yeah.
then honestly, there's nothing anybody can go through that God is not going to bring them out of.
That's right. And that's the thing, is that God will bring them through because you're
Yes.
sharing your testimony. Those of
Yes.
you that are with us, I'm with Yinka, yes, tonight, and we are going to be talking about her latest project, which is a solo book project. And so this book here, as you have shared with us, we're talking about having the promise, but the promise comes with a but. So
Yes.
I want you to hold tight, and then we're going to come back and we're going to unpack that subject of when you have a promise and it comes with a but. Okay. All
Yes.
right. So listen, I want you to stay tuned, and we will hear from our sponsor, one of our other sponsors that I want you to hear about as well. So y'all bear with me here for just a moment. We're going to bring up their information and we're going to share it.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Jonathan Haynes, and I'm so excited to be a sponsor with Book Talks with Sandy Sanders. Listen, I'm with Jonathan Haynes Ministries, and I'm a singer, author, motivational speaker, podcaster, and the list goes on, but I'm offering my services to you. You can reach me by email at sbirdproductions56@gmail.com or my phone number at 228-346-1535. I'm looking forward to connecting with you, and let's get it in 2023. God bless you all.
Thank you, Dr. Jonathan Haynes of Jonathan Haynes Ministry. So we are going to now just talk a little bit. We're going to unpack the title of this of your book that you're showcasing and we're talking about. It's your solo project coming out in March. This book here is something that you mentioned that you have had this book in you for a while. So when your promise comes with the but, let's go ahead and begin to unpack that. Share with us. You've carried these what you have now penned on paper, and we're
Yes.
anticipating. Come on, I'll let you go ahead and start.
Yes, I think my journey started out, after when I was still in uni then actually. So I had a medical issue that meant having a child would be a challenge. And so I've been praying and believing God that, but when I do get married, I was going to trust Him all the way, to give me a baby. And, I was praying. And sometimes, I mean, I had an encounter in a service once where a word of knowledge came, that there's a young lady here that you think you never have a child, but not only will you have a child, but you will have children. And I held on to that promise. And I mean, that promise, that was God giving me a token that, look, Yinka, when you're ready to have a baby, I am going to be the one to give you that baby. Because for actually out of nowhere, that period was when, I had polycystic ovaries. So I never used to have my periods regularly. But after I had that encounter with God, honestly speaking, I stopped taking any medication and my periods will come. So I had that assurance from God that, you know what, when I was ready to have a child, it is going to happen by Him, by His power. So then I met my husband, I got married, and I waited like another 5 years before the baby came. And eventually the baby came, and maybe like 2 years down the line, I get diagnosed with maybe a year after the baby came, I get diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And so I was really struggling, and I kept telling God, I was like, look, I don't understand this. Why would I be suffering this much? Because when I got diagnosed, I couldn't walk for a number of. I mean, my legs were. I literally lost my mobility, and I had issues with one hand. I lost feelings in one hand, and I couldn't see in one eye as well. So it was a very, very difficult time for me. And like 2 years after that, I now get the diagnosis that my amazing son that had waited for years to have, that had been praying to God for, I now get the diagnosis that he's autistic. And that really broke me. It really broke me that I kept on asking God, why would you make me wait this long to have a baby? And then when the baby comes, the baby now has special needs. And I could not relate with it. And I
Mm,
really struggled with my faith. I struggled with my faith. I mean, I think I even stopped praying after a while because I just I couldn't marry the two, because I knew God loved me. I knew that He wanted the very best for me.
mhm.
So suddenly to now have that to process was really difficult. But I think God actually He used it to actually draw another side of me. He used it to peel off another layer of me because I learned to trust Him. I learned to see that, look, even when things don't look the way we want it to look,
Yeah.
God has a greater plan. He has something amazing in store for us. So gradually, I came to a place of acceptance. I came to a place of knowing that God does not make mistakes. The fact that, I mean, my son got diagnosed with autism, I knew deep inside of me that autism wasn't going to be the end of the story because I knew the God I serve. I'd gone to that place where I accepted that, look, this wasn't the end of it. God was still at work. and I started to trust him. I started to, depend on him for my son. So in the book, I write about, the different stages that the Lord took me through. I write about, when and in the early days of the diagnosis, where I was trying to do everything the way I knew how to do, the way you parent. I was reading all the books, but I realized that, look, I couldn't really raise my son that way because he wasn't a neurotypical kid. And every time I tried to do the regular things with him, it was always getting very frustrating. So I just decided, you know what? I, I had literally that just come to me for, what you need to do with this boy. And since I started to do that, honestly, it really it transformed everything for us. I would actually, when school holiday is starting, I would go to God. I'll be like, okay, God, what do I do with him this holiday? And honestly speaking, God always showed up for us. He always showed up for us. All the activities I engage him in, I always know that this is where God wants us to go. This is where God wants us to, this is what he
Mhm.
wants to do this day. And it made a massive difference in my life. And I had friends that were part of my journey, and so they will tell me, "Oh, Yinka, you should write about this. Yinka, you should write about this your journey. Yinka, you should write about this your journey." And I kept on telling them, "Okay, I will eventually." So I literally went to God and I was like, "Okay, what do I call this book? What do I call it?" And he gave me I literally woke up one morning repeating that when your promise comes with a but. And I knew God wanted, I knew that was God speaking to me and telling me that, look, Inka, that's the title of your book. And I started to press in and get what he wanted me to talk about. I started to
Mhm.
press in and hear all the issues he wanted me to address in the book. So I started to write it down, but I did not, I broke it down, but I didn't start the proper writing
Uh,
until towards the end of last year. So
yeah,
I
yeah.
honestly, I got to a stage where it was after that COVID thing that I just realized, look, you cannot wait anymore. You got to sit down and write this thing down because, when God saw that I was serious about it, and I
Yes.
said, so many more ideas started coming to me. He started giving me new instructions. It was like, okay, Yinka, when you finish this one, this is going to be your next book. When you finish that one, this is going to be your next book. So I literally have 3 books that I really need to push out this year.
Right, because it's all in you. Exactly, exactly. I love as we go back and just dialogue, you mentioned about praying to God even before you had met your husband.
Yes.
You had, you have an instinct that you wanted to be a mommy, and you
Yes.
wanted to give birth, and you want to give birth to a child, and
Yes.
you prayed to God for that. And um, how does one do that? And as you let us know later, um, that you met your husband later. So you began to pray even before you had met your husband. Let's
Yes.
talk about that. Oh, girls, And Nika, were you military?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay, okay, all right. You just serve people. That's all. And so here you are, you're a young woman, and you want to have a baby, and you begin to pray to God about this baby and then of having children. So
Yeah.
yes, where did that desire come from?
I think God placed it in me actually.
Uh-huh.
Because
Yeah.
what happened was, the minute I knew that there was a medical problem,
Okay.
that was enough reason for me to start praying about it.
Yeah.
I would literally tell God, I don't understand what's happening in my physical body, but I'm going to trust you. I'm
Yeah.
going to trust you and I'm going to just go with, anything you tell me to do.
Yeah.
So from an early, I think right from my uni days was when I started praying about, conceiving.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, when I met my husband, one of the things I told him was, you know what, because we were in school together, and he told me once, every time he tells me that he was going to marry me, I'm like, well, you better know that, better be ready to pray because you're really going to pray if you do marry me. And he used to wake me up. He used to be like, no, you can't be that serious. And I told him, I said, look, we might have issues conceiving, so
Yeah.
you do I need to let you know already, ahead of time,
So
and
did
he
you
always,
have yeah, did you have your diagnosis
I
before
did,
you got married? Oh,
I
okay.
did, I
Okay.
did.
So you get the diagnosis, you're but you still believe God.
I did,
even in the
honestly.
midst of having the diagnosis of MS, and you're letting your husband know, your fiance, y'all discussing marriage, and even that but you trust God.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
yeah, yeah.
And he showed up for me, honestly. I mean, at that time, because I was angry with him for a while.
Hmm.
I didn't see it for some time. I was so upset with God. And I really realized that God doesn't mind if we're upset with him. Because
That's
we have
real
a father
talk.
daughter relationship,
Yes,
he
because
gets it.
people will feel like, oh my goodness, no, I can't. We're talking about God. And we have been told so many times growing up and years ago. But I think that having these type of conversations that you and I are having, we're learning more and more that um, when Jesus was here on
Yeah,
earth, Jesus went through emotions because
yeah.
he was 100% man and 100% God. So, what we experience. So, yes, thank you for opening up about, and you've talked about that before. And so go ahead. This is good, y'all. This is good. Y'all, we're on with Yinka tonight. Yes.
So I'd been praying and believing God right from then. And so when we got married, we were still praying. When we go for hospital appointments, when we go to see the gynae, we would still pray about it. And
Yeah.
then God answered us, and the baby came.
Uh-huh.
So we were on top of the world. When you want to shout to the whole world that what we serve
Yeah.
a true God. He's
Yeah.
living. He's amazing. He answers prayers.
Yeah.
I was like that for quite a while until I got the diagnosis for my son, and that broke me.
Did you
On
notice any things about him that
Well,
you
I
think
think
you
in the
wouldn't
early
go for
days,
their usual checkups and things to that nature?
honestly speaking, there was nothing that pointed me to it on time,
Okay.
because it was a normal pregnancy. It was, okay. When I was going to go, I was going to be induced to have
Yeah.
him, but he got distressed in the womb, so they rushed me in for
Yeah.
an emergency CS and all that.
Uh-huh.
But after that, everything looked normal. All the milestones were met. Then all of a sudden, I just noticed that he wasn't making any. The noise babies make.
Yeah.
When they're trying to vocalize things, that wasn't happening. And I was beginning to wonder, oh, that what's happening here? What's happening here? And eventually, by the time we got his diagnosis, I mean, I may never forget that day when they told me that.
Yeah.
That he was autistic. Now, at that time, I didn't really know what it meant.
Mhm.
I didn't know what to expect.
Mhm.
I just took it and I was like, okay, God, I don't get this.
Yeah.
Why on earth would you? I mean, can you imagine when you've been praying since you were in uni to have a baby?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, God, why on earth will this happen to me?
Yeah.
And I couldn't relate with it. I kept asking, okay, I mean, what exactly am I supposed to do now? How am
Yeah.
I going to navigate this life? What exactly do you want me to do? And you know, I think I stopped praying after a while because I wasn't sure that there was really a God anywhere.
Yeah.
I got to a stage where I was like, I don't think you really exist.
Mm.
But I don't think he ever left me, even in those my doubting years.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever left me, because when I look back, I see that I see instances where I could see that this was the hand of God. I could see that. I mean, you can imagine. I just had a baby, and then just as the baby was turning 1, I
Yeah.
get diagnosed with MS. I could not
Yes.
walk for a number of years. I could not. I mean, my hand. When you're scared to carry your baby because you don't know
Yes.
the
And
baby. You
you
don't
were
know.
you were
You have
having were
weakness in
you
one
having
hand.
challenges with holding him because
Exactly.
of your diagnosis?
Exactly.
And describe, and we're going to pause right here because to help us understand some of the symptoms of MS. Does it come with pain? Does it come with? So, what are some of those things that you had to deal with?
Yes, it's actually different with everybody. And to
Yeah.
be honest, MS is so it's a very funny illness.
Yeah.
It presents in different ways for different people. So
Okay.
for me, mine started with pins and needles,
Got it.
and I just had pins and needles in my hand,
Uh-huh.
and I started. Then it gradually progressed to numbness. So
Yeah.
I started feeling numb in my, first was my legs, then
Yes.
my thigh, and then eventually came all over my body. I was numb. You could pinch me and I won't feel it.
Yeah.
You could prick me with a needle and I will not feel it.
You wouldn't feel it.
And eventually I couldn't walk. I just woke up. I mean, I literally woke up one day and my legs were not responding to my brain. And it was really scary. It was so scary that, but I could see that, God knew that that was going to happen to me. And He had put things in place, honestly speaking. When I look back now, I'm in awe of God. I literally say, God, thank you. Now I'm like, okay, God, I can see your hand, and I could see that he actually put things in place for me. He got me. I had family come to stay with me
Yeah.
to help me to take care of my son. I mean, my mother-in-law literally moved in with us, to actually help. And I can't put a price to that, honestly. Because if I didn't have her support, if I didn't have her help, then can you imagine? My baby was just going to turn 1, and all of a sudden I couldn't walk anymore.
Wow.
It's like a wake up call, because some of the times we take so many things for granted.
Yeah.
You go to sleep and you just assume that you are going to wake up and you're going to be able to walk. You're going to be able, things are going to
Yeah.
function well.
That we take for granted.
We take
We
everything for granted. And so
yes.
that was like a wake up call for me. It was like, God, I literally, I was sober. I was like, okay, you know what? I could see that it wasn't me all along. It was God's mercy that was actually doing it.
Wow.
But I never realized it.
Yes.
It
Yes.
wasn't until I woke up and I could not walk.
Hmm.
You literally want to move your leg off the bed and it's not responding. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
God, I don't get this. What on earth is happening?
Yeah.
And I never heard of it before. I never heard of MS before. That was my first time. In fact, when I got diagnosed with it was when I went to read up about it. That was
Yeah.
the first time that was my first time of ever coming in contact with, that illness. So
Yes.
it
Okay.
was like a new chapter that was opening in my life.
Hmm.
And I can honestly, when I look back now, I'm in awe of God, honestly. I look back and I'm like, okay, God, you're such a loving father. The way he worked it out for me. And so I tell people now, I'm like, look, even when you have any of these illnesses, even when you get diagnosed with any of these things, it's not the time to run away from God, because that's what the enemy wants. He wants us to feel like, oh, how could God allow this? He must not be a good God. And then you just stop praying, you stop communicating with him. Honestly speaking, that's not the time to run away from God. That's the time to actually run into him and have him cover you under his wings. And that's when you need him to speak to you and tell you, okay, you know what, this is how you're going to navigate this. Because that's literally what the Lord did for me. I can honestly say that God was the one that he orchestrated everything. It was like, okay, Inka, you know what? This has happened, but this and this and this is what you will do. This is how you're going to come out of it. And I can tell anybody anywhere now that, look, the minute you connect with God, honestly speaking, He's going to make a way for you. He
Yes.
will make a way for you, and you will come out of that season. You're going to come out testifying and praising Him, because now I literally tell people, when I even tell people that, look, I have MS, they're like, oh, you can't, that can't be true. You don't look it. And I'm like, look, that's because I've come a long way. I've had a season where I couldn't walk. I had a season where one hand wasn't working. I mean, even up to last year, June, I lost the vision in one eye. I had optic neuritis. But honestly speaking, the way the vision left, I kept on telling God, I was like, look, God, I've been through worse than this before, and you brought me out. So with this one, you're going to bring me out again. And that was what he did. I literally woke up one morning and my vision was back. And I just know that, you know what, whatever the
Ah, oh my goodness! What praise reports?
honestly, I know that
Oh my goodness!
so long as we remain connected to him, he will make a way for us. He will
Yes.
show up for us.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He will show up for us. We're here on a Saturday afternoon with a live interview with Yinka Kalani. She is a 10-time best-selling author,
Six time.
Amazon.
Oh, anyway, I received 10. Okay.
Okay, so we are a 6-time
Yes.
international best-selling author, and we are talking about her soon-to-be released solo book project. Yes, the solo book project that she is going to be. We are anticipating she'll be releasing the book in March. We're just super excited. When Your Promise Comes with a But, and we have just heard from her sharing that from her early diagnosis of being diagnosed with MS, and your baby is what, 2 years old at this point?
Yes, he was just turning 2 when I got diagnosed. No, he was. We were actually celebrating his first birthday. We were planning his
Almost,
first birthday
almost
when his
turning
symptoms
2.
started.
My
So by the
goodness.
time he was 2, the MS had gone full blown. I literally was. I mean, I could not even recognize myself anymore.
Wow.
When you just your body fails you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah. Yeah.
literally you want to raise your hand, your mind wants to raise it, but you can see that your hand is not moving. And it's very scary. It's such a humbling experience that now, I don't take anything for granted anymore. When I wake up in the morning now and I can lift my leg, I'm like, God, I thank you. God, I'm grateful for this. I literally tell God now, I'm like, I open my eyes in the morning and I can see. I'm like, God, thank you that my vision is still intact. And when I lift things and I want to open a screw cap and I open it, I'm like,
Yeah.
thank you that there's strength in my hand.
Yes. Oh my goodness. And those, again, those things that we take so for
We
granted,
take
being
everything
able
for
to
granted.
see something, being able to
Yeah,
hold and grip and just be
yes.
able to walk. And listen, this is going to be a great book, you all, because just the things that you're sharing with us thus far, you all want to be on the lookout. I need you, yes, to mark your calendar, because the week of March the 20, all throughout that week, but beginning on March the 22nd, is going to be her book launch and the release of the book. So we're going to be talking about that. And so, yes, indeed. You also have a couple of other book projects that are coming out. Would you like to go ahead and share about that?
Yes, so I have Abba's Daughters, and that is coming out on the 8th of March. So
Okay.
we're actually doing the pre-sale now. So we're trying to get people to get a copy. And that is there's 14 women, 14 everyday women
Uh-huh.
with an extraordinary God. So each of us have picked a woman in the Bible that we most relate to.
Okay.
And so we talk about the aspects of the woman's life that actually that resonates most with us. So for me, I talk about the woman with the issue of blood.
Uh-huh.
And I talk about, because her life was, I mean, she had the illness for like 12 years until she met with Christ.
Yeah.
And the instant she touched the hem of his garment, the bleeding ceased. And even Jesus Christ had to acknowledge that, look, virtue left me. So I
Yeah.
started to write. I mean, I could relate with her life because
Yeah.
she was isolated. She was isolated for, how, even when we look at the book of Leviticus, it actually gives us the rules and regulations. If you're bleeding or you have any kind of issue like that in your body, you're actually unclean and you're
Yeah.
not supposed to, you actually kept separated. So I
Yes.
could actually relate with her life because, in the early days of my diagnosis, I couldn't even talk about it. I could not bring myself to even say,
Yeah.
look, I have MS. I could not bring myself to tell anybody. I think my siblings knew, but I could not talk about it with anyone else. And when I got, on my job also, obviously I had to tell them because I needed some adjustments made for me. But aside from that, I could not bring myself to talk about it. So I had 10 years of silence, 10 years of I couldn't even, I was always afraid to actually interact with people because I always thought that, because it actually, the way MS is, you never can tell where it's going to show up. I could actually be talking with
Mhm.
you, and I would lose my train of thoughts, and I would not, I know what I want to talk about, but the words just will not come.
Yeah.
And it took
Yeah.
me a while to come to terms with that.
Hmm.
Sometimes I mean, even something as simple that I've been doing every day, I would forget how to do it. And it is very, very scary. So I could actually relate with and apparently, the woman's, do you know what the woman's name is? Her name was Veronica, but we never knew her as Veronica. We knew her as the woman with the issue of blood. And I could actually,
Oh, you did the research and you found out what her name was
honestly, I could not
or
believe
is.
it.
Yeah.
And I kept telling myself, the things we go through in life, that's what people call us by. They forgot her
Come
identity.
on now.
They forgot her name.
Yeah, yes. That known by. Come on, you can teach us. Go ahead.
Exactly. She became known as the woman with the issue of blood. Nobody remembered her name. In all the books all the books that talked about her accounts, there was no mention of her name. Because that her problem had taken over her identity. It had taken over her name. Nobody acknowledged that, okay, this she was actually called Veronica at some point. All they knew was, oh, this woman has been bleeding for 12 years.
Yes.
She was, and that was all. So I could actually relate with that because, sometimes we get drowned in the issues we're going through, and
Yes.
that takes up our identity. We
Hmm.
now wear that cloak. We wear, like, I decided, look, I wasn't going to let MS dictate to me anymore. I wasn't going to let MS limit me anymore. I decided that, look, had enough of this. I was going to still accomplish everything that the Lord wanted me to accomplish, with or without the MS. God was still God. He was still in charge. He was still the one that was directing me and leading me. And that was a change for me.
Yeah.
Now I literally go to God because I know my identity in Him now. I do not allow MS label me. Even though you could see me tomorrow, I will have a walking stick. You could see me tomorrow and I will have an eye patch because I'm not seeing very well in one eye. He doesn't change who I am in Christ. He does not change who the Lord calls me. And that's what I want us to hold on to. That's what I write about in Abba's daughter. I write about my chapter is actually called the isolated daughter, because that's what the condition wants to do. It wants you to
And to
feel,
isolate
yes.
us. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I
And
talk about it and I say, look, that's not the time to run away from God. That's the time to actually run to Him.
yes. Yeah. And finding the strength to run to Him when we find ourselves and in those circumstances, in those health issues, in those non-health issues, but it's still a situation that has brought about um, a shift in
Yes.
our everyday life. And so when that shift comes in our everyday life, what you're telling us and what you're helping us to do today is, especially us as believers,
Yes.
we as women of God, and that's our platform. We speak to the majority of our listening audience is females, and we do have a percentage of males, but the largest percentage. And so what you're telling us as women of God and men of God is, this is not the time for you to put the pillow over our head
Yes.
and tuck underneath the covers, but we've got to come out and trust God. That's when
Yes.
you run to Him.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And in this there's a song, and I know it's a secular song, but it has a lot of meaning. The song Whitney Houston sang, that's coming to my mind. There's a song that she had on her Bodyguard album that was called "I Run to You." See, I'll start singing. But that song, yeah, it had a different, but oh my God, that's when I want to run to Him. That's
Yes.
when we want to run to Him. Oh my goodness. I feel the presence of the Lord just from even the thought of that.
Yes.
That's our thought. And you as an intercessor, and we when we go to God and we just acknowledge him as your new book is coming out, all kind of sinking together. He's a father. And so when she ran to him, your subject in the book, the woman, the we now know, yes, she did have a name, but we just didn't
Yes.
know her name. We
Yeah.
She's known by her circumstance. She's known as the woman with
Yes.
the issue of blood.
Yes.
And so many times you're so right. We're known
By the issues.
by our issues.
Yes.
She used to be an alcoholic. She used to be a drug addict. She
Yeah.
used to be shy. She
Yes.
used to be just loudmouth. Let's go on the other end. Talk
Yes.
loud. But
Yes.
now God has learned how to tailor that conversation, and she speaks with eloquence and speak with softness and love,
Yes.
and because we're misunderstood by our circumstances, our
Yes.
situations. She's
Yes.
not angry anymore. You know, my. Oh my goodness, we could go on. Listen, we are with because you're coming back. We got
Yes.
we got
Yes.
we got another interview. Though, yeah, she's on tour on Coffee Conversations and Book Talks with Sandy. So we're going to have a couple of these conversations. And so today she's just taken us and our audience, you've taken me into another piece of what we can expect from this book
Yes.
with the release of and the promise. God gave you the promise.
Yes.
He
And it
promised.
could be any promise. It could be
Yeah,
any promise.
yeah.
And you really can fit anything into it because God is such an amazing father. He's
Yes, he
mindful of
is.
everything. And he's not it's like 100 steps ahead of us. He's already in our tomorrow.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So we
yeah,
can trust him.
yeah, yeah. He gives you the promise, but it comes with a but.
Yes.
Mm, 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 mm. I am super excited to have Yinka on with us on tonight. She is, yes, her new book project, When Your Promise Comes with a But, as well as the project that she's a part of, an anthology book project called Abba's Daughter, which will also be coming out the first week of March.
Yes.
And we are just super, super excited. If you will, let our audience know you're in pre-sale for the copy of
Abba's daughters.
Daughter. And
Yes.
so if someone would like to go ahead and support you in that, I'm just going to bring my screen up while you tell us how can we support you in grabbing the copy.
I'll put the link in.
Okay,
I'll
great.
send the link to you now.
Okay.
So I mean, but the pre-sale is on now, and once the hard copies, what's going to happen is on the 8th of March we are going to have our bestseller campaign. So
Okay.
I would like every one of us to at least help us become a bestseller by buying a copy, and
Yeah.
then maybe like 2-3 weeks after we will have the hard copies will be ready for. It's a beautiful book. You're going
It
to
is a
enjoy it.
beautiful book. Your
Yes.
visionary authors have really done well with this.
Yes.
Your graphics are beautiful. It's very, um, it looks like it's a good quiet read that,
Yes.
and then not just that, but that you'll want to share it with other women in your circle. It can be your women's group. It can be your prayer circle. Say you're in a prayer circle, but this would be an excellent book. I'm looking forward to getting my copy. And Abba's Daughter, it says everyday women, extraordinary
Ordinary
God.
God.
Yeah, Abba's daughters are everyday women and extraordinary God. And so, yes, we're going to put this link here. Let me just save it. And there we go. Thank you so much. And we're going to get that on. So, what else you got going on? We know you're on a tour here, and
Yes.
on this book, as well as you have the book launch that's coming out for Abba's Daughters. And so, anything else exciting that you have going on?
So I'm gonna have a virtual launch on, on for when your promise comes with a but.
Uh huh.
And then I want to do another book that is going to be doing MS with the Lord. And that one, I am going to be talking about the scriptures that I have used to help me on this journey, and how it's going to be like a devotional.
Hmm.
So that you know, anyone that is going through any lifelong condition, because
Okay.
about it is that we we start to feel God doesn't love us because that condition came. But that's not true, you know. So
Yeah.
I want to do like a journal, a devotional rather, that will have the scriptures that you could use, the scriptures that I actually used to pray when I was going through all my various relapses. I have a collection of things that God has taught me, and I really just want to encourage people. One of the things I learned, when on this my MS journey, is that even medical intervention is still God's intervention.
Uh huh.
Half of the time we're stuck and we're looking for a cure. We're looking for a cure, but the Lord heals us.
Yes.
Gives us, we come out even stronger than we were before the diagnosis came. So even though you don't get now, the MS has not disappeared. It's still there. I
Yeah.
still take my disease modifying drugs, every other day. But honestly speaking, I can tell you that I'm not afraid of the future anymore.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking, oh, I'm going to die. This thing is going to kill me. I mean, every one of us is going to die one day.
Yeah.
So I'm not letting MS determine what I do anymore. You know,
It's
I just
amazing.
trust God to carry me through.
Hmm.
I realized that when I wanted to start my treatment, I struggled a bit because I kept asking God, why won't you take it away? Why would I have to use medication? Because I couldn't relate with it. I was really, really conflicted. I kept on asking God, I want you to take it away. I want to be healed completely of it. I want a cure. But the cure didn't come. But what God did, you know, I think his grace was, it just abounded in me. Now I don't really, I don't dwell on the MS anymore, because I could see a bigger picture. I could see God on the journey with me. I could see God walking with me. And one of the things I wrote about it fully in my in Abba's Daughters, because I wrote about my own season, my own way, where the way I touched the hem of God, of Jesus's garment, was him going with me on all my hospital appointments, him sitting with me and helping me decide what treatment options to take. That was Jesus Christ meeting with me. And
Yes.
so just open up our minds to let him meet with us where he wants. He's the one that knows what's best for us. So we just put our hands in his, and he'll be the one guiding and directing us, even on that journey, even with that diagnosis. God is still God.
Even with our diagnosis, God is still God. A couple of takeaways that we have had in our conversation tonight is how to
Yes.
navigate and ask God to help us to navigate whenever we're having circumstances and changes and some shifts in our life, whether it is in a medical diagnosis or a medical situation, or
Yeah.
even in the loss of a loved one, or
Yes.
going through a financial crisis, or whenever things just seem like they're not adding up. Is God, I'm doing everything right.
Yes.
I believe that I'm walking this walk the way that you have lined it up for us to walk it out. But yet, here we have this but.
Yes.
And he helps us to that's our takeaway today, Yinka, in this conversation, as the navigation. You have helped us um, of identifying and how to ask God to help us navigate
Yes.
when we have been given a promise, but there is a but with it. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to you coming back. Though you all, she will be back with us. But I do want you all, those of you that are listening live, her interviews, that Yinka's interviews on Coffee Conversation will be uploaded to our Spotify channel. Definitely over by the weekend is over. And we also have your live on our YouTube channel. So those of you that are watching us on YouTube, go ahead and share it out. Share this out with someone that you know will benefit from knowing about this amazing, amazing lady. Listen, I'm looking at your link. You all, I've got to share it because when we talk about the number of books, I want to thank Dr. Tina. She is in our audience. Thank you so much for coming through and supporting. Certainly, I appreciate. That's when being a part of the CTR network has been such a blessing, because our CEO, she will take the time and come through and support us. And that's the kind of network, media network, podcasting network that
Thank you, Dr. Tina.
we're like a family.
I
we're
know.
a family. Go ahead. You want to say something?
I was just saying thank you.
Yes, Dr. Tina is hanging out in she hangs out with us, and it's over 30 plus of us, but you'll look up and she's in the audience, and I just love it. I want to share my screen, you all, because Yinka has a whole lot of books. I'm gonna put it that way. She says thank you for sharing and sharing your story. And another author friend, Vandella Wells, is in the audience. Thank you, Vandella,
Hello.
for coming through. And yes, listen, this lady has got some books, you all. You have been a participant in these anthology book projects. And I'm telling you, we're just going to share a screen. You were in Heal Her, From Pain to Promise. Then, yes, More Precious Than Gems. Great book. I believe I interviewed you all.
Yes.
Reflections of Gratitude, Grace, and Praise with Sheila Farr. And I have the privilege of being the forwarding author in this book. And I tell you, it was a joy writing this book. And we started out with Forged by Fire, as God orchestrated this first time of writing. Yes, with your visionary author, Ketra Keys. And of course, with the phenomenal Dr. Doreen Let's Read. You're in Winner by Knockout. Yes. And then, of course, we have Self-Love Journal. And your visionary on this one, this is not Cher, but Sheila. Is this one one of Sheila's books as well?
Yes.
Yeah. And there you are. Yes, yes, indeed. And listen, she's got so many that she's been selling. They're sold out, you all. So you got to wait for another print roll to come around. And of course, Dawn Leak and Finally Free Part 2. This is the second volume. Liz Hoop's book, Out of the Ashes We Will Rise. And the current book she is in pre-sale for this book here, which is Abba's Daughters, Everyday Women, Extraordinary
God.
Yes, Extraordinary God. It is in pre-sale. Get your copy. The book is scheduled to launch. They're doing their book release, their campaign, the bestseller campaign on March 8th. It is?
Yes.
March 8th. And of course, her very own book. She will be releasing that book. I don't see it. We're going to get the graphics out on that one as well.
Yes, very soon.
Yes, her solo book project. That the one that we're talking about now. So listen, I thank you so much. She will be back with me again next Saturday. We're locking down Saturday afternoons. Listen, guys, y'all put it on your calendar and join us at the table as we go in for a little bit deeper of knowing when as she says, when your promise comes with a but. We've learned today, she shared with us the process of navigating whenever life happens, and asking God to help us navigate through those challenges, those circumstances, and the promise that God allowed her. He kept his promise. You
Yes, he
prayed
did.
and you asked God to give you the grace to be a mommy. And
Yes.
oh, I feel that. And your promise is how old now?
16.
He is 16, y'all. So listen, he is coming home, and she's very super excited. So we're going to let her go so she can rest up and spend all her time with her son, because I know she's missed him. I do want to share my screen with you all, just one more information, and then we're going to have last words from our guest, Yinka. She's going to be sharing her heart with us. But I want to share, as many of you know, I was saying is that we are um, one of our sponsors, and they will be on with me on Tuesday. I've been interviewing them for the past couple of months now. Yes, my dear friend Kenyatta Powers Rucker. She is a coach, a speaker, global speaker. She is also known as the Lady in Tech. Their book is going to be released in March as well. Lots of books coming out. Yinka, hers, they're coming out March 23rd. And so
Oh,
in Townsend, Maryland, the book launch and network summit hosted by Kenyatta Powers Rucker. She is the visionary. This is Ladies in Technology, Ladies in Tech, changing the face of technology. These women are in various capacities, hold various positions that required knowledge of technology. Some of the things that you can expect if you want to attend, it is in Townsend, Maryland. And the summit will consist of empowering women through networking, building relationship, exchanging ideas while enjoying live music and great food. The Ladies in Tech, Changing the Face of Technology book launch and network summit is a pivotal event designed to motivate, inspire, equip, and foster networking among women in the tech industry and leadership roles. You can expect inspiring speakers, networking opportunities, panel discussions, and the book signing. Get a signed copy of the book while you're there. There's also vendor opportunities. So if you are looking and you may want to travel, you're not far outside of the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, go on over to KenyattaPowersRucker.com. I will be putting it in the comments. And yes, click onto the link, get your early bird ticket now. They are still available. And come on and join these amazing ladies in Maryland for their volume 2 of Ladies in Tech, Changing the Face of Technology. At this time, I do want to yield back, as I always do, to my guests as they come and share their heart of what we've been discussing. And so at this time, I present to you Adeyinka Kilani. We call her Yinka. I can never pronounce her name. Kilani. She is the solo book project and the writer, the author of the book, When Your Promise Comes with a But. And I yield over to you now.
yes, and thank you very much for having me. So I just wanted to round up by just encouraging us. I think there's nothing that life throws at us that will really bring us down if we know our identity in God. So I just wanted to just say, look, even if the promise doesn't look the way you expect it, even if the promise comes and you're still wondering, God, is this what I asked? Is this what I've been praying for? I want us to just hold on to that, hold on to the promise, because the God we serve, He's such an amazing Father. I actually feel sometimes, that scripture that says in Jeremiah, it says that if before that he has good plans for us. He has He doesn't have any evil plan for us. He wants to bring us to an expected end. That is what I want us to hold on to. Even if the promise doesn't look the way you expected it, honestly, the end is going to amaze you. Because I'm literally holding on to God for my son, because I know that autism is not going to have the last story. So even for you, that promise that God gave you that is not looking the way you think it should, just hold on to God, and you'll be amazed at the amazing thing that will come out of it. We serve a loving Father. He's so mindful of us. He is mindful of us, and He knows us more than we even know ourselves. So just trust Him. Trust Him, and you will testify in the end. I promise you that. God bless you. Thanks, Sandy.
You are so welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, listen to all of our new family in the UK. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, do share, like, and as they say, follow, share, and like, and do all of that good stuff. We want you to just drop us a note. Let us know where you're from and that you are watching the Coffee Conversation and Book Talks with Sandy. I am on with my guest. She will be back with us on next Saturday, which is going to be, let's see, are we back together on next
I wrote
Saturday?
it down in my book somewhere.
Yes, we're actually on the 24th. Okay, it's on the 24th. That's when we will be back. But I'm
Okay.
doing lots of interviews, y'all. They're all coming together. It's going to be really packed. So I know you can't catch every interview. I know you can't catch every episode, but I thank you for watching any of our replays or listening to us audibly on our Spotify channel. I am Sandy Sanders, the host and creator of the award-winning talk show and podcast, Coffee Conversations and Book Talks with Sandy, where we host authors, anthology book projects. And most of all, I say that it is for you. Why do I say that? Because you just might be looking for a good book to read. As always, I tell you, I love you. Be blessed. Look out for this amazing author. Look out. She's touring us, and we've got some more authors coming through. And so to join me tomorrow night. We also do have the authors reading tour. As you know, from now through March, we're going to have authors coming on reading snippets from their books. And this happens every Sunday evening starting at 6:00 p.m. And we will have Dr. Kay Kaiser that will be joining us. Their book is called Faces in Foster Care. And so you don't want to miss that interview, and you don't want to miss the reading. The authors are coming on to share their portions of it's an anthology book project, volume 1, volume 2. So as always, guys, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow evening. All right. Take care. All right. And be blessed.
Everybody.
All right. And yes, please. And she's on. There she go. All right. We're saying good night, Yinka. We're going to tell them good night. Stay with me. Okay.
Okay.